YouTube Ozic going the Goat House is back. Today we're going to rank certain NFL teams based on their chances to be this year's Cincinnati Bengals. Remember 2 years ago, the Bengals finished dead last in the AFC North, 4-win team. They were a terrible team, all right? Burrow was out for some time, but they were a bad team, and then they make that giant leap to a great team, a team that is in the Super Bowl and now known as a great team. So let's see which team can a team make that leap. But we're going to take the teams that qualify, and I will rank them based on their chances of being the Bengals this year. So excited about this one, kind of a fun one here. Follow us on Twitter, a lot going on there, live updates and more. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Full NFL coverage here at the Goat House. Here's our Twitter. We'll show this graphic here in this video in a second, but I kind of asked you guys to rank these teams, the teams that qualify, kind of playing along on Twitter like always. So check that out. Link down below. So which teams can qualify, in my opinion, I guess, to be the Bengals? Because, of course, we can't put the Rams or the Bills up here to be the Bengals. But I kind of created two groups here. Because, remember, 2 years ago, the Bengals won 4 games. So I created that group of teams that had 4 wins or less, and that included the New York Jets, Houston Texans, Jacksonville Jaguars, the New York Giants, and the Detroit Lions. And kind of it would have been a little boring if I just did that group. Even though I do think that's kind of the more Bengals-like group, because some of these other teams in the other group it wouldn't feel like that much of a leap. But I did another group with last place teams or 4 wins or less. So you got all the teams that finished last in their division last year. Maybe some teams in there we don't think will finish last again. And then that included the bonus one. Why is there 9, even though there's 8 divisions? Houston Texans didn't finish last in the AFC South. The Jaguars did, but the Texans had 4 wins. So that is why there's 9 teams in that second group. So kind of what we're looking for, and I'm kind of blocking that part of it, but we'll remove myself here in a second. But yeah, I mean, to simplify it, the Bengals had a lot more than just this, but why were they so good last year? Well, I think the balanced roster, across the board, they were talented everywhere. They had a very balanced roster. Guys, we kind of got to identify teams that could have a balanced roster. Some of these teams don't look like they do, but they could this year, because the Bengals were kind of like that. Some of those guys that stepped up last year, we weren't expecting them to be as good as they were, some of those players. I think mainly on the defensive side. So very balanced roster, very more talented than expected. Great quarterback play, which is the key for a deep run for any team. So you got to have great QB player. Which team has the closest to that? Because Joe Burrow was lights out. Could even say elite last year. Elite playmakers. You mainly look at the Jamar Chases, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon. These guys use them. That were the big time playmakers. But I look at the defensive side as well. Those pass rushers were big time playmakers. The linebackers are Logan Wilson. Jesse Bates is a ultimate playmaker. All over the board. Mike Hilton, Awuzie even at corner. These guys, do they have these big-time playmakers that when you put them together, it looks like an elite playmaking group? You don't have to have a bunch of specifically elite guys, but as a group there. But you want some elite guys. Looking at Jamar Chase, Jesse Bates, guys like that. And then I'm blocking this one, but it is unpredictable play calling on both sides of the ball. Look at offense. I thought Zach Taylor did a really good job mixing it up. It really helped that they were, mixing up with Mixon. That they had a strong run game on top of that. What everyone knew, the pass game. So it's pretty unpredictable. What they got to do, when it comes to the game plan, we got to worry about this, we got to worry about that. But I mainly look at defense. I think that's why their defense was so good, so much better than expected. It's because teams and quarterbacks didn't really know what coverage they were in when you were lining up, because they pretty much switched every play, and they had the players that were capable of doing that, which not every team has. They're in man coverage on first down, or for an example, then cover 3 on second, then cover 2 on third. This is an example, but that was probably one of the bigger teams of that. That constantly switch things up, and there's so many teams, even good defenses, that they're going to run man coverage 50% of snaps. So they're going to run cover 4 40% of snaps. And gets pretty predictable, but the Bengals stayed unpredictable in that category. And that was a big reason their defense was good, because, it just wasn't super easy for the quarterbacks to go play against them. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Do any of these teams really have all of that? Probably not. It's very tough. But who is the closest to that? And that was interesting to kind of look at the teams here on where they were, where they look like they thrive, which categories. But so I went ahead and ranked that Group 1. I ended up with the Jags at number 1. And it was really between the Jags and the Jets, who I think I keep saying throughout this whole offseason, if there was going to be sneaky teams, that's kind of this video too. It's almost in a way this video. Who could be the sneakiest teams here this year? The Bengals were sneaky last year, to say the least. I'm looking at the Jags and the Jets, and I've been saying that. But what's splitting them up? And the Jets actually might end up, head-to-head a better team than the Jags or better record, I think I maybe had them one spot higher or so on my power rankings as well. So the Jets could definitely be better. I think the QB play, which Zach Wilson could be better than Trevor Lawrence, I just don't think so. That's kind of what really split them up because the QB play is the most important, the way Joe Burrow played. I mean, some consider him an MVP caliber guy. There was just so many MVPs last year, basically, the guys that played an MVP level. Aaron Rodgers just happened to take it home there. But I think Trevor Lawrence can make that leap because, he's still a prospect. He was one of the better quarterback prospects we've ever seen. They got a better coaching staff in there, better talent. So, and so did the Jets. But I think Trevor Lawrence can make that leap and play. Will he play as good as Joe Burrow did last year? I'm going to say no, but I think most people would say 100% no. Like there's 0% chance that he can. I'm not going to say that. I think he can get pretty close. I think he can play. I think he can have a hell of a season here. So elite playmakers or potential elite playmakers, because again, at this time last year, we weren't calling some of those guys elite for the Bengals. Jamar Chase didn't even take a snap yet, obviously. So, I take a look at all these teams, but the Jags versus the Jets, maybe the Jets have that extra guy in that group, looking at it that way. I think the Jets maybe just edge the Jags out in that category, but the quarterback's still a little bit more of a difference to me. Balanced roster, I think they're both, both have some holes here and there. All these teams do. To me, it was pretty even across the board in the balance. I don't know if one team's way more balanced than the other team. I do think the Jags and the Jets are probably. I'd say the Giants actually could be up there in that. It's just the quarterback play. Do I trust Daniel Jones as much as other guys? Not really. They do bring in a good play caller there, which helps in the next part. But the Jets could end up having the best defense of the group. The Giants have been good. I do worry about their secondary a little bit. But the Jets under Salah there with that defense, they add some pieces. Obviously, they got some studs there. But the Jags, I keep saying it too, I think they can be a very unpredictable defense this year. I think it can be very, very much a problem for opposing quarterbacks because they are switching their scheme a little bit. They're going to blitz a little bit, but they got so many pieces that how are they using them? Where are they aligning them? What's to come? I mean, a couple of the draft picks, Trayvon Walker, Devin Lloyd, guys that can align at different spots. So I also think they'll stop the run at a solid level there. Josh Allen could be a superstar player, that pass rusher there for the Jags as well. So they had Darius Williams at corner. So I like the Jags at 1. I think the quarterback play split them up. I really like what the talent the Jets are putting on the field going forward, moving forward here. So I like the Jets. The Lions and the Giants and the Texans were tough for the 3, 4, 5 spot. I put the Lions at 3. Right now it looks like the defense isn't good. That's kind of what it looks like. But they have so many good young players that could step up, that could be like the Bengals. Like, we didn't expect these guys to step up and be this good, but they can be. But they need to have, we expect Aiden Hutchinson to be very solid, but they're going to need some other guys to step up and be very solid as well. And then offensively, they added some weapons, obviously. DJ Chark in there at receiver, Jameson Williams, the big one there. They got a good running back group. They got a good offensive line. Jared Goff, sitting there thinking they don't have that quarterback play because of Jared Goff, but Jared Goff kind of did play at that level at one point. I'm not saying he's going to get back there, but he kind of has that in him because we saw him do it with the Rams. So maybe the Lions could take that step up. The Giants, they definitely improved. I like the draft. I like what they've added there and with the coaching staff as well. But just Daniel Jones, can he take care of the ball? Is he going to be that guy that's improving, or is he going to be that guy that's taking the game away from his own team? That's kind of a problem when looking at this too. Essentially we're looking at who can get to the Super Bowl here. So maybe not the most trust in Daniel Jones, even though I do think he'll play a little bit better this year because of the coaching staff. But but we'll see. In the Texans mainly the defense. There's just so many holes in that defense, and it's just too much of a problem for me. And Davis Mills played great last year. Well, I shouldn't say great, but he played better than expected, which makes it great. Can he continue to play that way? Do they have enough weapons? They've added some guys, and they still have Brandon Cooks in there as well. But that's how I rank the teams based on how chances I think they can be the Bengals. I don't think any of these teams will be as good as what the Bengals were last year, though. But then I ranked that second group of teams where it's the last place teams or the 4 wins or less. This was very, very obvious that it was the Broncos versus the Ravens at the top, and the small difference here was, I guess, the weapons on offense. The Ravens, the lack of receivers was the problem here, and that got it didn't make it easy because this is very tough to split these teams up. But that kind of going through the stages of these teams, and that's the problem. Looking at what the Bengals had last year, I mean, they had arguably the best receiver group of that we've seen in the last season in the league. So that was kind of a big problem for me. So I look at the Broncos adding Russell Wilson, having Cortland Sutton, KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, these guys, a couple tight ends as well. And they have that running back group, which the Ravens do as well. But I'm a huge Devontae Williams fan. I think he's got potential to be one of the top backs in football, maybe starting this year. I'm not saying he will be a top 3 back. I'm not really saying that for this year, but I think he has the potential to do that. Looking at that, will the Ravens offensive line stay healthy? Kind of nitpicking at this point. Really, the difference is that receiver group. It's kind of just relying on Mark Andrews, who is an elite tight end. I thought he played like the best tight end in football last year. Then defensively, the Broncos had a very good defense because they had Vic Fangio, but they had some good players as well. They still got some very good players. They've added some. They're getting Bradley Chubb back. And a little bit of different look, so maybe they become unpredictable. I kind of like the Ravens in that category a little bit more, the unpredictable defense, kind of like the Bengals had last year, because the Ravens are switching things up for the better. They're adding some more coverage guys. Look at the safety position with the duo they added. So they're going to be, I think they'll be a little bit more sound in zone coverage specifically. And it's just, we're so used to that same man coverage, heavy blitz Ravens defense that it's really going to throw teams off. But to throw teams off is one thing. You got to have the talent to kind of finish it off there. The Ravens do. The Ravens definitely do. So that's where I kind of give them the edge. So I went Broncos, then Ravens. Then we had the Jags, who I had first in that last group, then the Jets. Then we squeezed the Panthers in here. At this given time, they probably have the worst quarterback play on this group. So that was very tough. Then the question is, will that be their quarterback, Sam Darnold, this season, the way it sits or not? Because will it be Corral or will it be somebody else? So does Darnold even have a shot? I think the way it sits, he'd probably be the starter. But the Panthers, the rest of the roster is pretty damn talented. I like their defense, where it's heading. We know they have the playmakers if healthy. So I put them 5 kind of in the middle. But then you see underneath that, I put, if the Panthers get Baker or Jimmy G, I'm actually going to move them to 3. Even if Trevor Lawrence might be the better quarterback, I really like the talent the Panthers have. I think they have talent. I think it really, quarterback play was what held them back from so many games last year. And I think even Matt Rule takes, and he should take some heat, but he probably takes a little bit too much heat. The quarterback play was just so bad. There's only so much you can do with it. And the Panthers have talent. There's something I've been thinking about. I think I said it before too, but it's something I've really been thinking about, because the Panthers are kind of leading the way for Baker. And I know Baker was pretty bad last year, but he was very solid 2 years ago. I still think that talent's in him if he's healthy, because he wasn't healthy last year. But something I've been saying, something I've really been thinking about lately, is just something about an angry Baker Mayfield. That I want on my team, on my team. So something about that, and Jimmy G has been there before, and he has the talent around him if he's with the Panthers. It's kind of just on the offensive line, which they did improve. That tackle duo is looking pretty good now, because they already had Moton, but they added Kwanu, who also can play guard. And then we'll see where Christensen can go as well, who could play tackle or guard. Besides the point, getting off track here. But Jimmy G would have that talent. He's kind of been there in the playoffs, in the winning situations before. So I think that definitely would boost them up. Are they as good as the Broncos Ravens? I don't think so. I think everyone would agree with that, but I definitely put them at 3. And that might be one of my, if they get Baker or Jimmy, that could end up being one of my bolder takes, because people right now have the Panthers at the very bottom of the league or towards the bottom. I might really boost them up. Just something about an angry Baker is dangerous. I don't know. They got the Lions 6, the Giants 7. The Seahawks' current quarterback situation puts them down at 8. They do have that coaching staff with experience that find ways to win. They do have the weapons, though. At the same time, they had Metcalf, Lockett, They add Kenny Walker. We'll see what happens with Carson, but they have Rashad Penny as well. They add Noah Fant. So they have those guys. It's just the quarterback play could be, I said Darnold would probably be the worst in this group, but maybe it would be Drew Lock or Geno Smith. I think I would take Geno Smith, right this second over Sam Darnold. But Darnold versus Lock, you may have to go Lock last for right now just because of experience. I guess that's a question. So that's really what's holding them back there is that quarterback play. And I kind of kept the Panthers in the middle because they're probably going to add somebody. We really for sure don't know. If they do, we boost them to 3, and they have that talent around them. Seahawks, it really doesn't sound like at this point. At one point, we thought they may add somebody. It doesn't really sound like it right now, so it's tough. But let's say the Seahawks they're not going to add Jimmy G, but if the Seahawks add Baker, the Seahawks add Baker, they're probably in the same situation as the Panthers. That defense, though, is kind of hit or miss. A lot of young guys. I'd probably put the Seahawks around 4 or 5. Yeah, the coaching staff, though, is better than the Panthers. I'd probably put them around 4. They got that running game. Maybe trust them to stay healthier. Maybe that 3 spot with the Seahawks as well. I just don't think they're going to add them. I just don't. I think they're going to start Drew Lock, so we'll see. And he'll probably be a little bit better with that coaching staff than he was with the Broncos. And I have the Texans at last. It's just that defense still looks really rough. It still looks like the cornerback group looks a lot better. But it feels like they just added pieces to. They're still kind of in that rebuild process. 1-year guys. Not trying to hit it out of the park with that defense yet. The offense should be a little bit better. Will Davis-Mills, it's so tough to tell because he kind of was thrown in there and he played better than expected. So you could say he's going to continue to improve because he's a young player. But sometimes those situations where it's like we still don't really get a firm grasp on where his talent level is at. So sometimes those situations he kind of goes down a little bit, but then he starts to progress and goes up. Could see that a little bit as well. But if he continues where he left off and continues to progress, that is fantastic for the Houston Texans. So we'll see there. But yeah, the big dogs on this list are definitely the Broncos and the Ravens because they could potentially have that great or elite QB play. They have playmakers on their team. I know the Ravens are lacking receiver-wise. I mean, if Mark Andrews is a tight end, but he's an elite playmaker. But they have other pieces on defense as well. But the Broncos probably a little more complete in that category. I think they're both very balanced. Trying to think, just to talk about more here, what could the Broncos add? I think that's a pretty balanced roster. I think Cortland Sutton could be that legit number 1 receiver. I guess we could say they could add another legit like top tier guy because that kind of is big time for today's NFL. Even though they have guys there, the Ravens definitely could use one. We'll see if Bateman steps up. I'm excited about him. Offensive line, it just depends if the Ravens are healthy or not. I like the Broncos' offensive line. And I guess what depends on healthy or not is for the Broncos is probably that edge rush position, looking at mainly Bradley Chubb. They have Randy Gregory on the other side. Depth is, they got Cooper in there, I suppose. But a pretty balanced team for the Broncos. They won't value linebacker too much in that scheme. That's fine. The Ravens could use another edge guy. Like we said, receiver could use another edge guy. If we're nitpicking, maybe another off-ball linebacker, but another pretty balanced roster there. And then the Jags and the Jets, I keep saying they're sneaky teams. They're kind of in the same category. I think those defenses could be a lot better than people expect. The offenses will still be hit or miss, but I think the Jags offense probably look a little bit more polished because I think it's a better quarterback play. Doug Peterson with his experience, I know he got ripped last year in Philly, but I like his experience there. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see if the Panthers make a move for a quarterback. You think it has to be coming because they cleared so much space, which would have been it's really bad if they don't use that space because they kind of use the future money for that. So I'm very curious to see what they do. The Lions have drafted very, very well over the last 2 seasons. So I'm excited to see progression, how early these guys can step up because that could be huge there. And then the Giants are a team that's heading in the right direction. It's just, they're an interesting team because they're definitely heading in the right direction. I think they won round 1 of the draft this year. Kayvon Thibodeau was my number 1 overall player. Evan Neal was my number 1 guy for the Giants, like specifically. I thought the best fit, what they needed. Other than that, though, did they add, stuff to actually get a lot better this year? I think they kind of get better by default, but because they kind of added a better staff. But, they're kind of dealing with the cap space situation. So I think the Giants are a team that probably we'll be talking about at the top of this list maybe next year after another offseason where they actually can go to work. So the Giants are a team that can get a big boost it's one of those ones where it's not going to happen overnight. Sometimes we see that with the Bengals, sort of. These days in the NFL, we kind of see that. But the Giants, it's, maybe some people are expecting it right now, but it's not going to happen yet. But they can get a major boost, I think, after another offseason. I really do believe that. So, this team, I'm really excited. Even though they're not up there with the Jags and the Jets in a ranking like this, they're there or even better on where they're heading, looking at a 2-3 year plan. So I'm very excited about the Giants and the Texans. Same thing with the draft picks they have. The Seahawks with the draft picks they have as well. So it's just teams I'm excited about. Obviously, even the teams that maybe won't be that great this year. So let me know your guys' rankings, your thoughts. I know there's other teams that were considered bad last year, so they could be considered in a big leap year. So if you want to talk about those teams in comment, we're always talking with you guys on Twitter as well. So check that out. Link down below. You much appreciated. Also much appreciated if you like, subscribe, turn notifications on. We got full NFL coverage here. But that is going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.